I'm all in.
I can't cover. How about Brain Soul to cover?
You already have my clothes. What more could you possibly want?
Look, we gave you a barrel of suspenders. By the way, the workouts are... You look nice. We gave you a barrel and I'll stop complaining. Just trust me. Brain Soul to cover?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right.
What you got?
9 high.
10 high.
You bet my soul on a 10 high? You didn't even have a pair of twos?
Had a pair of twos, should have stayed in the game.
Yeah, like he said. That went on your soul. Hey everybody, welcome to a very special episode of Unqualified Experts. I am your host, Shane, your corrupt overlord.
And I am old man Callahan.
And today we are bringing something special to the table. Callahan and I have some very unusual credentials in the gaming community for the background, so I would even argue today I am not your corrupt overlord, but I am going back to the days of Big Alaska Dayton or Big Iowa, depending on which part of my poker career you caught me in. So both of us were, I don't know if there's pros or semi-pros. We made money playing poker. We were good enough to do that consistently.
Right, it was part of my income.
And for 2 years, it was all of my income.
And then I did also work as a poker dealer for a while, so I got more experience that way.
Yep, and so for kind of the intro, I will let you run down a few of your poker credentials. I'll do the same, and then we're going to jump into helping you play poker more like a professional.
Okay. So poker credentials. I place regularly in the cash game tournament style. I do play, or I favor live cash games or tournaments over online. I worked as a poker dealer, specifically only poker, every kind that I could get at, for 2 years, and I have no idea how long I've been playing poker, and
Decades.
It's I don't know. I'm old.
And I'll toss in for him, he was well enough known that when he stopped into a new casino, the response was, "Michael, you finally came here."
That was a fun moment. When I walked into a casino I had never set foot in before, they knew me by name and just they're like, "Oh yeah, we were wondering when you would come by." And I was like, "Yeah, can I get a game?" So the pit bosses already knew me there, even though I had never been in their casino before.
So he was good enough to be at least regionally famous, we'll call
Yeah. They were waiting for me to show up. So
which is a pretty good thing for a poker player.
Yeah, it felt good.
Yeah. For me, I was actually kind of the opposite in some ways. I have done the least amount of playing in, I guess you would call them legal games in a casino. The majority of my games were online when that was still a thing. And I was an exceptional online player, especially tournaments. Tournaments were completely my jam. And for some reason, I did very well in the cash games when I was living in Alaska, especially when they were framed where, everyone chipped in 1,000 or whatever and bought chips. So it still felt like a small table tournament, even if you were at a table. I tend to avoid the games that were repeat buying because it just was not my strong point. And to be blunt, when you hear poker game in Alaska and you think, boy, that could have been really crazy, it was crazier than you imagine. So I was very careful which games I would get into.
That's fair. I've avoided games with a lot of money flying around just because I was like, there's no predicting this table.
Yeah.
So
and even in the RPG we're doing, my character was built with reaction. And he said, based on what? He's a poker player. Oh crap, everything's going down. He leaps back from the table. And Callan's like, oh yeah, wait, no, I'm on the same page now. So,
I get it.
yep, that makes sense. So, I think it's kind of neat because we come from two very different types of backgrounds, but some of the strategies will be a little bit different, but a lot of them focus around the same thing. And so I'm going to start with a bit of etiquette because whether you're a new player or a long-time player, you've even seen pros get roasted by other pros because there are certain etiquette things you just don't do. And that is an important one. And you know what? I'm going to rant like hell on my first one, so I will let you go first to lead into it, and then I will yell at the camera in a bit.
Okay. Let's see. So, we're just talking about general etiquette.
Yep, general etiquette, table etiquette, whichever you think is most important.
And I guess from a cash game perspective,
Yep.
There's a difference between a friendly game between friends, or between people that you know regularly, and one in a casino.
Mm-hmm.
In a friendly game, you shouldn't completely clean them out on a regular basis. Give some of that money back. Unless they're that bad.
Yeah.
You cannot, I've done it before where I tried to hand money away and they were just not able to hit a card. That happens. But on a regular basis, take some of their money but not all of it in a friendly game. In a casino, if you don't know them, take it all.
Yeah. You know what you're getting into when you walk into a casino and sit down.
Right. Or you should.
Yeah. If you don't, you will learn very quickly.
It's true.
I think that's fair. For me, I am going to rant immediately for online play. This is the worst thing. Don't fucking slow play. Just so angry it brings out the swears, but slow playing is just the worst, where you let all 20 or 30 or 40 seconds go down before calling or passing, or where you're blatantly just trying to bleed off time to back into the prize range. Because, announcement, if you're doing this at the beginning of the tournament, you're not good enough to back into the prize, and you just need to play and get better. Or to take a modern term, get good, scrub.
And this is what soured me. He's an online player. I didn't like it. I did make money at it, but not nearly as much as in person. And exactly what he's talking about is the thing that set me off from this in the first place. I was in a tournament with it was $1 million plus payout, right? For everybody involved in the tournament.
Yeah.
So lots of people.
Yeah, big crowd.
I was the chip leader by a very large margin for the entire tournament. And I went from having 100 big blind bets, and in 1.5 rounds of the table, they were all slow playing so much to weed people out. I went from having 100 big blind bets to 5. That's how much the blinds went up. The blinds went up on every other person.
Yeah, and
because they were going that slow. And I got blinded out, effectively. I went from being the chip leader in the tournament to I had to make a move, and somebody sucked out against me. And that's very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about play at that point.
It became sheer luck because there was so little playing being done.
And I had dumped hours into building that chip stack, right? Because it was just flowing, and I was doing it and making the right moves, and it all just went away because people were just sitting on the trigger. Yeah,
it is, and it got to the point where they started fixing that or even penalizing players for doing it because it was so bad. And it's bad strategy, it's terrible etiquette, and I guarantee everyone at the table hates you if you're doing this.
And I was at an entire table that was doing it.
Yeah.
I was the only one that would have been terrible. It would hit me and I would just snap. I was just done. I already knew what my decision was.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to do. Just do it.
Yep. And the only time there's any slow playing is when you're very, very near the cutoff point. And I will phrase that with saying...
We're talking tournament play here.
Yeah, tournament play. If you're slow playing consistently, you're always doing it too soon, and there's always people in the tournament who are slow playing too soon. Cutoff is there were 10,000 people, 500 get prizes, and you're down to 510. 600 is too soon. 550 is too soon. 525 is too soon. You need to be literally with like a handful. If you can count more people on these fingers than places to placing, it's too soon to slow play.
And what he's talking about, like, he's talking about getting into the cash money. I've laid down aces before in a tournament where there was 13 people left, and like 4 of them had gone all in, and it rolled around to me.
Yeah.
And I threw away my aces.
Because at that point,
I was waiting for them to lose.
3 of them are going to get looted to put you in.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. I just tossed it. And they went out. I hit the final table. And I was just like, I can't remember if I would have won or lost. I don't know. I've done it on multiple occasions. Some of them I would have won on, some of them I would have lost on. But I wasn't playing for the hand. I was playing for the cash seat.
And again, he didn't slow play.
He
made a smart call based on the situation, and the table was not infuriated at him for folding right away. Like it's
accurate.
Yeah. And to say that, like, you can take time to think, but if you are slow playing every single hand, you're just going to get the ire of everybody. And if you're in a large tournament, because I remember this happened a few years ago in the World Series of Poker, someone just took like 6 minutes with every decision. She wasn't slow playing, it just took that long for her to make a decision. And eventually, every time at the table, the moment it got to like 1 minute, they just call time, call time, call time. You will get the rest of the table not necessarily colluding, but so fed up that they will just come after you.
It's a danger. Right, exactly. If it's happening and you're pissing people off, they're not necessarily working together, but they are. Yeah. In the respect.
They are happy. They don't care who wins.
If you make a bet,
you lose.
Everyone will call. Mm-hmm. Because whoever snaps you off, if you're gone, you're gone.
Yep. And don't slow play. Just don't do it.
It's a good rule.
Yeah. You have another one you want to touch up on?
Let's see. This isn't for online. This is just for collusion. Don't be a cheater, right? Don't cheat. But let's talk about some of the gray areas.
And that's fair because we'll put this up. Poker is an area where people who are not in the poker world will say we do things that they're like, oh, isn't that cheating? There are gray areas accepted. Like the example I use, baseball. If you're recording a practice to steal signs, screw you. What the hell are you doing? You cheat. If you're sitting there on game day and your backup right fielder says, hey, coach, every time they touch the symbol on their chest, that's 1, and then it's bunt, hit and run, etc. If you steal signs that way because you just crack the code, that's part of the game. That's how the rules are basically officially or unofficially written. For poker, there are a lot of the unofficial, you can do this as long as you do it this way. So for poker players to say, this is cheating, period, end of statement, which collusion is, just don't do it. Just don't. It's a certain level of scummy to get to the point where you have a large group of poker players glaring morally at you.
And one of the examples that I'll give you here, it was the first hand of a game. I sat down and I was just to the outside of the big blind. So I was in first position. I had to act first. And I had a reasonable hand. I had jacks. So I just called, right? And everybody, because I didn't know how the players played yet, and it rolls around and everybody calls and it hits the 6th seat or the 7th seat. Minor raise. No, it hit the 7th seat and he did a minor raise. Okay, everybody called in between. I called as well. Rolled around the table. So now we had a decent pot. Rolls back around to the 6th seat after the 7 had raised, and the 6th seat then goes all in on the first hand. And this is where you had a maximum buy-in of $500. He goes all in. The 7th seat snap calls. All right, we lose a few players in the win in between. I've got jacks. It's a solid hand. It's not the best, but I call with it, and we get 2 more in between. So there's 5 of us in the pot. And we all turn over our cards because you do that once you're all in.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to not. The 6th and the 7th seat, they had garbage. It was nothing. It was like a 7 and a 3 and then the other one had like maybe like a 9 or 7. I don't even remember what their hands were. They were just garbage, not suited or anything like that. My jacks held up because I ended up hitting one.
And I remember you saying you were confused because they did not look like scrubs when you sat down at the table.
Right, exactly. I was just
But
like,
then they
yeah.
played scrub
I was like,
cards.
okay, maybe they're just loose or just rich kids or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So I ended up winning, and they pushed me the pot. And then I saw the 7 seat pull out his bankroll, which was a good stack. You know, he had several $1,000s, and he handed $500 to the 6 seat, and they both bought in for the maximum buy-in again. And I immediately grabbed racks and started racking up my chips. And one of them tried to call me out on it. And he said, oh, you're just going to hit and run? Because hit and run is also bad etiquette.
Yeah.
Right? If you just hit a huge hand and you don't at least play a few more where they can get a shot at getting it back.
Or even get some blinds out of you or something.
Exactly. That's kind of a jerk. It's bad etiquette. I mean, it's not completely unreasonable. Well, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But I turned to him and I said, if you two can play out of the same bankroll and play like that, I can hit one hand and leave. And I literally just racked up my chips, tipped the dealer, and left. Because those two were in it together.
Yeah.
What they were trying to do, since there was a set buy-in that you could do, if they both went all in and caught that in between, if one of them just happened to catch it, then they've got a strong arm that they can just use to bully the rest of the table and just take the money. And then later on, they split it up. That's not right.
Yeah.
It's okay to have, when the other people at the table, like I've gone with other people I know, we're still out for ourselves. And I might loan somebody money, right? But they're going to pay me back. And they're going to straight up, I'm not just going to hand him money out of expectation, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to ask me, can I borrow money? It's different. And then, what was the point I was going to touch on again? The hitting and running.
The etiquette is hit and run, but there is that situation where if there are clearly colluders at the table,
Yeah.
then that rule goes out the door.
And also, if you just realize that you're not, it's okay to walk away with money,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't feel that you have to keep playing at any point. Like, if at any point you're uncomfortable, pick up and leave. That's your money. You played, pick up and leave. And there's an exception to the hit and run rule, because I've done this before, and it's not your fault. If you announce, this is my last hand of the evening, right? Like, if I've been beating people up and I've got a good chip stack,
Yeah.
and you say, this is the last hand of the evening for me, and I'm starting to rack up my chips, a lot of times you're going to get action. They're just going to call you because they want to get part of that money. If on that last hand, and I put money in there without looking at my cards before, which is quite common, I'm just like, I'm going to give them a shot at this to this limit. If you happen to suck out on that,
Yes, everyone knows what's going on.
that was you announced. This is your last hand. They're just like, he had a great night. And then you can just take those chips and leave. So, but yeah, that's...
Yeah, and good points, because honestly, to me, it's weird that a lot of people have issues with etiquette in poker, because there aren't that many rules that aren't common sense.
It's true.
Don't cheat. Don't do a hit and run unless there were some very clear circumstances if something's not right. And
don't hold up the game.
Don't hold up the game. And beyond that, you're pretty good to go. And some tables will be slightly different. I've been in tables where, they're having a good time, everyone's just talking back and forth, and that's okay. There's others where they're here, they're intense, they're reading the cards, they don't want to chit-chat. Just read the room in that situation.
Right, and I'm a talkative person. If there's a large pot going on, and I'm not involved in it, you should shut up.
Yeah. Let them do their mental math.
Exactly.
If for no other reason, you should be reading those players to see what information you can get. Do you know what's going on? Are you reading them right? If they come out of left field and you realize, wow, I read that whole situation wrong, you want to reevaluate how strong you are at that table.
Right.
That's all stuff that either saves you money or makes you money, and it's just being polite. Because if I'm trying to decide if I'm going to win or lose 10 grand, as much as I love Callahan's stories, I don't want to hear about how the milkman's been coming around a lot recently. Do you think that's a bad sign? Because I'm not going to be able to let that go as I'm trying to do the math.
Right. It's... polite.
Yes.
But and let's talk about cheating again. Like, okay, so there's many gray areas, okay? If someone shows you their cards and you're still in the hand, right? They think you're out. People make mistakes and they're just like, oh, here's what I had, and they throw it away. You announce that to the table.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody gets, that's fair game. You were directly given information that no one else had a chance to get. Right?
And
that should be announced.
And that's one of those, it's not a rule, but it's really good etiquette, because that's happening for where the person's a little bit drunk, they think you're out. You even sometimes hear, oh, sorry. And then you're just like, Jack 10.
Exactly.
Jack 10, Jack was clubs, 10 was diamonds. Because at that point, you're also buying goodwill with the rest of the table.
That's right.
And that can go a very long way. Especially if you had a rough night, but you're coming up towards your last hand. That might be the decision whether a person who has had a really good night, but they're not sure how their hand sits against yours, they might throw away a 50-50 just to let you leave with a little bit extra. Those little things do come into play. Maybe not. But it never hurts. They'll at least remember you well. If nothing else, if they bust you, you probably get whiskey and Coke out of it. So it's not all bad.
There you go. But there's other information.
Yeah.
Like when a dealer is dealing, I watch the dealer.
Yeah.
Most people don't, right? There's so much information there. You can get, as they're dealing, even average dealers, it takes a lot of skill to get those cards low and flat on the table. Okay? And I can do it. But that's mostly because I played. Some poker dealers don't play, so they don't realize, or they're just not as good or haven't honed their craft. So as they're dealing, if the cards are too high, now they're spinning and they're flying across the table. You're not going to identify, oh, that's a 7 of hearts, right?
But you might see red.
Red or black or face card.
Yep.
Right? Those are the things that I'm looking for. And I'm doing a mental count in my head, because that's going to shift the statistics later depending on what comes out. If I'm chasing a flush and I'm chasing a spade flush, and I know that I saw 7 red cards flying out there, my odds just went way up.
Yeah, it's time to chase.
If I saw 7 black cards get dealt out, my odds just went way down. It's not that great because other people are chasing. There's just less cards in there for me to make it. And I don't know if it's a club or a spade or whatever. All I can identify is red and black. But that matters, right? I don't announce that to the other players because that information was there for everyone to get. If I'm picking up on that information and they're not, that just means I'm better at it than they are. And that's part of the skill of poker.
Yeah, and that's one of those too where the best poker dealers are stone-faced.
Yes.
Because especially poker dealers who have played the game, they know that good players are looking for every piece of information. Like if Callahan's dealing a game and I'm not quite sure what's going on, if I can read him doing a side-eye to someone and think, oh, that person really has a hand or something, that changes the pot. That might tell me, oh, my trips are not good. Throw it away before you lose your whole stack. But not every dealer, you're not going to find a dealer giving you information in Vegas who has been dealing for 20 years.
Right.
And
I did just mask my, and there's a difference.
And yeah, in a backwater casino where it's just kind of relaxed and they're just kind of casual, you may be able to read the dealer for information based on what's going on. And that's fair game because everyone at the table can do it.
And I was liked as a poker dealer, right? When I was doing it. And here's the difference. If you're playing in a $100 buy-in 1-3 game, like just structured betting 1-3 game, they want some chit-chat from their dealer.
Yeah.
So you give them a little bit more. You get into the pot limit $2,000 buy-in 7-card stud game, they want you to shut up and not talk at all.
Yep.
All you do is announce the pot, and you give them what they want. And I've done it before. I did get in trouble at one point as a dealer where I was just sitting there. I was completely poker faced. And it was a fairly good sized pot. I want to say it was like $5,000, right? So it's not an insane one, but it was $5,000. And I'm sitting there and there's 2 people left in the table, right? It's just heads up between 2 people. And I'm just completely oblivious to everything that's going on, or I appear to be. And the final guy he calls, right? Last card is out, he calls. And I just take the pot and I start pushing it to the other player. I haven't seen their cards yet. and the guy freaks out, rightfully so.
Yeah.
I crossed a line. Because and he goes, I haven't showed you my cards yet. And I was like, well, he has the full house and you have a flush, so he wins. Right? And I was like, you can turn over your cards. And the other guy turned over his hand where he had the full house. And the other guy just sat there shuffling his cards back and forth for a little bit. Because I was right. But that was still a dick thing to do.
It was.
Right? That was and everybody else at the table knew too. They're all just like, that guy's got a full house. And that's why we're just like, you should fold. And he couldn't get away from the hand.
Yeah.
And we'll do more on that later. Like,
and in fairness, that's a tough one. That was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn as I was becoming a better poker player. And I think for a lot of them, that's the lesson that kind of stops a lot of people with the $1, $2 tables or tourneys versus getting to the higher ones. And also, I'll take a moment to say, one of the things I loved about poker was the culture did kind of skew your idea towards money, because the way you'd say, yeah, it's $5,000 pot, no big deal. And it got all of us who have had jobs or 5,000s of life-changing money. But yeah, that world is weird.
It's not normal.
But by poker standards, a 5,000 hand, yeah, it's good. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's
you see them all the time. I'm in the right places.
Multiple times a night at a minimum, if you're a dealer.
And so, we'll kind of start going into some of the tips, because I feel like we're just kind of leading into there. So, okay.
You want to start with online?
Yeah, sure. And online's kind of interesting, because I know some of the things you don't like about online, I actually technically disagree with slightly.
Slightly? I'd say we have very polar opposite ideas of online.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a reason on your sheet why you hate online. And why don't you go ahead and read that, because I think we can both give good insight into that.
So, let's talk about the good thing about online poker. There is always a game.
Always a game. Yep.
24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If you want to play, it's there, and you probably have multiple tables, so you can shop around to find the one that that fits you the best.
And obviously, I played online poker while it was legal. And I was in Fairbanks, Alaska, which Alaska is the middle of nowhere, and then Fairbanks is the most estate laughs at you. And like, short of living in a village where you have to go in by float plane, Fairbanks is about as far away as you can get by. So I was middle of nowhere, Alaska, and I could still get up at 1 a.m., have just a $100, $200 bankroll, and still find a tournament or a game.
Yeah.
And that was the beauty of it, was that just simply would not have been possible.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. With online poker, there is a higher risk of collusion.
Yeah.
Multiple players playing as a group and sharing information. Or hell, just one guy with 3 computers.
Yeah.
Right? He's 3 of the people in the game. You know, it doesn't matter which hand he happens to win. First of all, he's seeing 6 cards a hand, if we're talking about...
just pure math.
Hold'em, right,
yeah.
Exactly. He's got a statistical lead over everyone because he can do better calculations, but he also gets 3 chances to get a shot at the winning hand from what comes out, right? So it's more than just raw statistics. And there's no way to know. And granted, they say that there are... They detect that and they monitor it. Are the same players always playing at the same tables? Yada, yada, yada. But they could have 50 accounts and just shuffle that up.
Yeah. And also, see, that was a fair criticism, and it was a mixed bag. I did see examples where there were very much efforts made to ban players, ban combination of players, where it was kind of done, where even in 1 or 2 cases, winnings from a tournament were pulled from players who were shown to be colluding and then given to the others who were knocked out at the same time.
Okay, see, that never happened to me. That's cool.
But there were times where clearly seat 1, seat 3, and seat 5 are either the same person or they're playing in the same room. Now, one time, it was gratifying because I was in the perfect position to, I'm about to ruin all your days, and I busted all 3 of them. But that usually doesn't happen. Usually the odds with collusion work in the cheater's favor. And that was a legitimate complaint of online poker that I think would have been solved if it was given a long enough chance, but it never got that chance.
They did just kind of gut it. And it didn't have a chance to grow. But
Yeah.
collusion in general.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what game you win. If you think the other players are cheating,
They are.
leave. Well, more than that.
Yeah.
Leave. Nothing is saying you have to play that unless there's an exception. If you think you can cheat the cheater, do it.
That is advanced strategy. That is not for beginners.
That I would not recommend that. I have it's and that's also kind of that's that gray area.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, I don't feel bad for them.
And if you pull that off, feel free to do the hit and run immediately.
Yes,
because that's the whole
as soon
point.
as you have their money, say bye, right? So it's
let them call you any name, every single name in the book.
Yeah,
Just
you don't
walk
want to
away
play with
the
them.
money.
You don't want to play with them again anyway. And that's online.
Yeah,
you know, like and that won't be for tournaments or anything like that, obviously. But and it's a lot harder for people. There is collusion in tournaments. It can happen, right? But it's so much rarer because you get a random placement.
Yeah, it's harder to do. It's harder to pull off. It's easier to spot, in my opinion, in person. And in casinos that are running tournaments, they are looking for that.
They are.
And you know there's eye-in-the-sky security watching every hand, looking at the percentages. Now, obviously, even in the past couple of years, there have been some major cheating scandals that clearly should have been kept. And in that one case, we have to say allegedly because there were no charges, but there allegedly is my opinion that there is no way the casino wasn't in on that. You don't see the numbers and see the guy looking at his phone and then seeing the cards, and then there's no way there wasn't.
Right. And if players are looking at their phones and everything like that, that goes beyond etiquette. It used to be etiquette to not check your phone
at all.
At all.
You just didn't.
In every casino poker room I've been in at this point, you can't. They're just like, if you look at your phone while you're in a hand,
you forfeit.
You fold. Yeah, it's done. You're done. Right? They're just like, well, that sucks. You know, and they'll just push your cards in there. Oh,
and that's the right decision.
But the other one, and here was my one where I was never able to get an edge in online poker. I would win, and I would log in every morning. I would play, and I'd set my goal for $50 or $100 because it was so hard for me to eke out an edge, and I'd get that, and I'd be done, right? Which is actually quite profitable if that adds up.
3-4 hours a day for $100 a day,
right?
Yeah,
or less. You know, like it's still, you can still make that happen, but I get a lot of information in person from reading players. I can't do that online.
Yeah, and that's interesting because one of the things that made me much better in the home games and home tournaments that I did when I was up in Alaska was the online play. Because since I couldn't see your face, your expression, if you were playing with the chips or not, the only thing I could focus on was betting patterns. And sure enough, studying enough of it, I got very, very good at identifying betting patterns, even when there didn't necessarily seem to be one. And it'd be almost like, it'd almost be like hitting that wrong chord on a piano or a xylophone. Like, even if they were just doing stuff like, oh, that's not the bet he would usually make there. Something was a little bit off, and that would give me information I could then take into real-world games. So I think there were certain types of reading you could do online. And in fairness, your point's valid. There is not as much information because there's only so much you can hide as a person. There are some reactions that are just so natural, you can't. You know, if your heart suddenly jumps up to 140 beats a minute and someone's watching your neck, they're going to see the pulse. There's nothing you can do to hide that.
Yeah, people, like, and I've seen somebody with a perfect poker face before, and then the vein just starts going.
You're like, oh.
Right, they've got a bald head, and all of a sudden I see the vein, and I was just like, well, he's got some adrenaline flowing. You know, like, that's not his fault. That's biology.
Yeah.
So, and
you don't have that online. Though with online, focusing on betting patterns, and there is the occasional very good player who can play so randomly, they can play solid and you cannot get a beat on them. But most of the time, especially at lower number tables, that wasn't the case.
It's true.
And so, yeah, I think a tip that works for online or for the table, observe everything.
And I just couldn't do it. Like, it all blended together in online for me. When I'm observing details, I just had an easier time in real life.
Yeah.
Like, so when it came down to playing in online format, I was just doing math and statistics. It was just me going, I have a 33% chance of hitting this. The pot is this much. It's worth calling. It's worth not, or it's borderline. That's literally how I was playing. And that is always going to punish you for your returns.
Yeah. And that being said, there will always be more bad poker players than good ones, and there will always be more reckless ones and conservative ones. And because of that, if you always play the math in a good online game, you will, over the long run, you'll have good days, bad days.
Right.
You will always come out.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say, playing that, yeah, I've had those days where my target was $50 and ended up blowing through the 100 that I had set or something like that.
And like, just not my
like,
day, walk away.
Yep, I'm done. Yeah, that was my limit for the day, and it's just a bad run. But statistically, over time, I was increasing the value.
Yep.
That's the whole point. I do recommend for people starting out. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay. So for starting out players, tournaments are the way to start. Would you agree?
100%. I'll even go so far as to say I'm a terrible open table player. And that seems weird, because how can you actually stand toe-to-toe with pros and tourneys and then be bad to the common player at a table? I don't know. But the same way that online didn't quite click with you, the real life didn't click with me. And the tourney, I think it's the fact that it sets very specific rules or guidelines. Like, how much money each person buys in for. There's a limit.
Yep.
The blinds go up. And so
there's a finish line.
Since you can play within those rules exactly, it adds another dynamic that a lot of people don't pick up on. And it teaches you how to focus on some very specific skills that you need to do anything in poker.
Well, first of all, the limited risk.
Yeah.
The limited risk. You know how much you're putting into that entire game. If the buy-in is $50, there's tournaments out there, $30. Yeah. Okay. You can play for hours in a tournament if you're doing it right, and no matter how bad you do, you're out $30. It's a.
And the heyday of online tournaments, there are plenty of $5, $10 tournaments. So if you're just getting started, $5, 1,000 chips. That is a great learning experience in a real world situation.
You see a lot of hands without a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in tournaments, completely different from live games,
yeah.
as he went into, they are literally completely different skill sets. There are plenty of professional poker players out there, and we're talking world series players,
well above our level,
that they only play tournaments or they only play cash games because they don't have the proper skill set for the other, and they know that about their play. The thing about tournaments that I like is that there's a definitive finish line.
Yep.
So you know what you're playing to. You're playing to get to the cash table, and then once you're there, you're just playing to the end. You're playing until somebody has all the chips. There's no more buy-ins or anything like that. With a cash game, one of the things is you have to evaluate when you are done.
Yeah, because it's not only wins losses, but even if you're kind of grinding it out, if there's someone at the table who can just put down 1,000, put down 1,000, put down 1,000, that can be profitable. But it also means he gives himself more and more chances to backdoor into a hand that just busts you.
Right. And we're talking about no limit games at that point.
Yeah.
There's a lot less danger if you are in a structured betting game. Like if you're playing a low level $1, $3 limit game, right? That's the maximum bet you can put in. And those I actually like to encourage people to play in to break them from chasing hands.
Yeah, if that's an issue with you, going the limit is a good way to get
You will get punished hard by chasing hands in a limit game. Whereas in a no limit game, it might be worth it. Like you can.
And sometimes you'll steal a hand that you shouldn't have been able to steal.
Exactly.
Whereas in a limit game, you put out $3 to chase a hand, you will may and probably will get 5, 6, 7, 8 calls.
Exactly. You're going to get punished by the table for the people that actually have something in there.
Yeah. And that'll teach you very quickly to value the good hands more and to not value that second or third pair on the board that was never any good in the first place.
And once I learned that, and I moved beyond that to pot limit or no limit games, I don't like structured betting games now.
Same. You hit a point you don't like them anymore.
Yeah, it gives me less moves I can make. I can't force people out of a hand that I know are chasing, right? Or I can say, you want that final card? You're putting all your chips in play. I know what you're chasing here. Put all your money on the line. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And if they do and they beat me, fair. But if they put it out there and I know they're chasing and they put it out there, I guarantee if I put my money in the pot, the statistics are against them. So
yeah, you just know it's one of those situations where they are in trouble at that point.
Exactly.
And if they haven't learned that lesson, they're about to lose a big part of their bankroll.
Or not. I've had it go the other way. Some people can chase and hit.
Look, I will get to the story in a bit of how someone backdoored to be the 4 of a kind on me. So, yes, I have been there where you felt so good, and then you felt the opposite.
I've done that in at least one case.
One case.
So,
on behalf of the other person, you're a bastard.
I was.
Yeah.
So it was. We'll tell those later, I guess.
But yeah, and so going kind of with the next bit of advice I would give young players, because if you watch ESPN, you watch the World Series of Poker, they give you highlight clips. And everyone loves seeing, the big bluff that somehow gets through, whatever. But my advice to new players, don't bluff. Just period. Until you get the rest of the game down, don't bluff. Because I would argue that 2/3 or 3/4 of the things that a player sees and says, oh, that was a great bluff, actually was not a bluff if they had all the information going on at the table.
Right.
And that's the problem when you watch it. You don't. Like, if we were playing a long game, I may... Oh, Shane, you had nothing. You had high card 6. And you made him fold. Yeah, but I knew the past hands have been played for hours. If we've been playing against each other for years...
He's a really tight player.
We may have years of history. Like, he's a tight player. He's a loose player. He just had a bad run and might be on tilt. He's gone on tilt the opposite way by going extremely conservative when he'd usually be aggressive. Tournament dynamics. Maybe it's the time in the tournament where people are kind of hoarding the chips because you're getting close to payout.
Yep.
And if you're in the right position, you can bully to build your stack.
That's a more advanced tip. Yeah.
But it explains that it might not be a bluff. It might be you using information. I mean, and sometimes it gets crazy, like in individual games. Like, I don't know how it was in your area. If in some of the home tourney games in Alaska, you knew if a player's girlfriend had just broke up with him and he was on tilt. You knew if a player had had a bad losing streak. You knew if a player had just had anything happen that just threw his game off at all. And so it might not be a bluff. It might be that's a rough time, man. You really should be at home, not the table, but I'm going to raise. And so is it a bluff sometimes? Maybe. But most of the time, a good player isn't bluffing out of random. There is so much information going into every situation. So if you're a new player, don't bluff. It might feel good. It might give you an adrenaline spike, but it is hurting your poker game.
You will lose...
way more.
You will lose money by doing it. Which, as an advanced rule, I have bluffed before specifically to lose. And here... So I'm using it as a tool. I know I'm going to get called, and I know I'm going to lose, but I raised anyway, so that when I turned over the cards, they could see I was bluffing. Why would I do that, Shane?
Because you want them to think you are a very wild and loose and weak player, when in fact you can play the numbers and statistics, and so you're just waiting for them to toss the money into the pot when you're holding those pocket aces with trips flop.
Exactly. So
I'm setting up the table.
Right, so that I have now established I'm a loose player and that I will raise with anything. So now, when I make a raise with a premium hand later, they think nothing of it and I get colors when I really shouldn't. So I'm selectively choosing to lose money now to get more money later. Now, other players, they might lose one hand and they're just like, oh, that was a setup. But most people aren't professional enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to make that run for a long period of time before they figure it out. They're like, oh, wait, he actually does have these hands, or he's laying them down. Because they're just remembering that one moment where I specifically showed them my cards. So,
and if they've had a few too many drinks, or the dealer is a very attractive, well, in our case, female, but, attractive guy for the female players, or whatever the preference is, they're not going to pick up on that at all. Even a minor distraction, if you set them up right, you are just going to keep bringing in chips. But even then, you bluffed. And you bluffed with the intention of losing. And that goes again to, you weren't bluffing to win. You were setting them up. And when you do that, the key is, you really can't bluff the rest of the game. Because the whole point of doing that was to become a conservative player to make them come after you and play loose.
And I've done it the other way as well.
Yeah.
Where I'm only doing, calling with the best hands, the nuts and everything like that. You can bluff in those cases, but this is in advance. You have to pick and choose and be ready to lose.
And you have to see what kind of table you're playing at.
And I've done it where the final card came out. I wasn't chasing a flush, but everybody else was betting conservatively. They were all afraid of that final flush card hitting the board, right? And it hit, and I was in opening position, right? That's a specific example. If everyone is afraid of the flush hitting, and that flush card comes out, and I've established that I'm only betting when I have a premium hand, and that comes out, and all of a sudden I just push a large stack in there, everyone is going to fold unless they have it.
And
so it's
if they're betting conservatively, occasionally you have that chaser who will just call, but a lot of times you have, I hit the king, I hit the ace, I have pocket jacks who don't want to see the flush. And in that very specific situation, if you read the board right, you can make 3 good hands fold because nobody has the great hand that's threatening the whole table.
Exactly.
And so once again, that's one where it's an advanced strategy. If you're a beginning player and you saw that on TV, that wasn't a bluff. That was a very good play based on knowing the professionals and the players at the table.
Right.
And so for me, that's one like, well, when do I get to bluff? When you don't care about bluffing and when you're consistently winning, then you know when. Because I almost never think, well, I'm going to bluff this hand. There'll just be a moment where even the terms change. Oh, I think I can steal this one.
Yes.
And when you're thinking that way, you advance enough in your game that then you'll just know.
Right. When you're not planning to bluff before the hand comes out, right? Or when you say, I don't have the hand, but I can win this pot. It's not about the bluff. There's just a moment, and I don't even know how to describe it.
The best I can put it is reading people, knowing when to bet, knowing how tournaments work. These are actual poker skills you build up.
Yeah.
Bluffing is kind of weird. It's the skill you have when you have the rest of your skills. That's the best way I can describe it.
It's
bluffing so much is 95% of it is knowing when not to do it, which you do by learning the other poker skills. And once you have those down, you just almost automatically kind of get that extra. It's like the, learn 10 skills, get 1 free, and the bluffing is your free skill.
there is that exception when you get in that game. There's a perfect moment where every time they call you, you have the hand, right? And it's just that lucky run, and they keep calling you down, and you just happen to have it. You happen to have it, and then you can keep betting. And when they're not calling you, it's effectively a bluff, but they're just starting to get out of your way. There's this magic run, as long as you're not getting crazy with it.
Yeah,
you're just taking them all in because everybody is just assuming that you have the winning hand. And that's also a magic moment that it doesn't come up that often, where you're just running the table. And you'll feel it, right? You're like, I can bet. They all assume that I have the winner.
Yeah, exactly. And for beginner players, if you bluff a lot, you lose.
Yeah, you're just going to lose money.
And, there's always the lucky night. A clock is right twice a day. we've all seen the lucky hands. You've seen professionals who busted out where you're just, oh, only one card can knock them out, and then they get knocked out. It happens. Your first hand, you have pocket kings, you feel good. A king comes up, there's one ace showing. You go all in, the other guy has pocket aces. It happens.
It does.
But if you bluff consistently, you're going to lose. That's just, that's all there is to it. It's kind of like that silver bullet you just pull out for the very special moment when everything else is clicking together.
Agreed.
Hey everyone. So at this point, there is probably a bit of confusion. What was Shane about to say? What was the next tip? For the love of God, I am writing down all this great poker advice. Why are you giving me a cliffhanger? Well, as delightful as all of you are, we understand that an hour, 50 minutes of us straight is probably a wee bit much. Because it turns out that when a couple of middle-aged gentlemen decide to reminisce about the good old days, which they were, we might go on for a wee bit more than the average show length. So, congratulations. Surprise ending to part 1. Cliffhanger. We'll see you soon for part 2. Thank you for the wonderful support. See ya.
Bye.
If you like what you just saw, please support us by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more great gaming content.